Hi, this is Dr. Artis again. And I'm coming to you live again from my sanctuary. Tonight we're going to be talking about chiropractic care and the importance of spinal hygiene, which is critical. There's no way you can have a healthy life without having a good spine. That's essential for everything, and that's one of the reasons why I practice the profession that I practice. Just if you don't know a little bit about it, I want to open up with my story and talking about my journey to becoming a chiropractor, which is very unique. I started out as a kid and I had a lot of different challenges that I didn't really notice were challenges at the time. But as I look back on this journey, I grew up, I had asthma, I had pneumonia. I've had pneumonia several times as a kid. Also different digestive problems that I didn't really notice until I started learning about the body that I had these different things. Back when I was growing up about, 40 years ago, you didn't go to the doctor like kids go to the doctor today. So it was just like you just take some Robitussin and you call it a day, or you take something until you feel better and you just keep moving, and then you really don't change your diet. So in my journey, it really evolved from me just thinking stuff that was happening to me was almost normal. As far as the asthma, you do that, and then also with the digestive issues. And one of the things that I was thinking about the other day is I had headaches every now and then, and I really didn't know anything about that. So fast forward, going forward to me going into high school, getting ready to go to college, the whole time I'm thinking it's normal. Now I go to college and I end up in the hospital from, just digestive issues, and then also too with pneumonia one time. So it was just the different things that happened where I had a lower immune system. And now as a chiropractor, I understand that my lungs never developed properly. My body wasn't functioning properly. And one of the things that I always talk about, if your body doesn't function properly, there's no way you could truly be healthy. And with that being said, I want to be a veterinarian. So I go to North Carolina A&T State University, and I major in biology, and then I go over to laboratory animal science. I want to go to Tuskegee. I want to go to NC State, wherever I can get into veterinary school. And then when I go down and I started realizing that these allergies and this asthma stuff gets worse, I go in to get an allergy test, and then next thing you know, it was like, man, you probably shouldn't work with these animals because you're allergic to them. You got a high sensitivity, or you're showing a really high allergic reaction. Next thing what happened from that point on is I go to work at National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland, and then I start working with primates because those are one of the few animals that I could work with. And that's one of the reasons why I got that job. It's because I couldn't start out with lab animals. Long story short, I went to a chiropractor. When I went to visit this chiropractor, it completely changed my life. I noticed that my symptoms started to clear up. And then when it's like God got a hold of me and he was like, man, you need to really go and consider being a chiropractor. You could actually help a lot of people. And so that's what I did. I enrolled in the chiropractic school. Not 100% sure that's what I wanted to do at the time, but I enrolled in the chiropractic school. And let me tell you, that's one of the best decisions I could have ever made. I mean, I did take a step back from, working and having a good salary to actually going back to school for 4 years. Probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do in my life. But I did that actually because that's what I was called to do, I do believe. I always tell people that I don't think I chose chiropractic. Chiropractic chose me, the profession. And chiropractic, if you don't know anything, it is really a lifestyle. What it is built off of in 1895 with D.D. Palmer, which was adjusting this African-American janitor that had a company named Harvey Lillard. And he was deaf in one ear. And he was cleaning this building one day. And when he was cleaning the building, they noticed that some noise came by and he didn't move. And his granddaughter was with him. And she was like, he's deaf in one ear. He's deaf in both ears. He was like, well, let me try something on him. And D.D. Palmer was a very big fan of like studying history and anatomy of the body. Even though he owned a grocery store and some other buildings, he it's the very first chiropractic adjustment was performed on Harvey Lillard in 1895 in Davenport, Iowa. And so that's where I decided to go to school, where the history of chiropractic was founded. And when that came upon, man, I just started, and I lit out on fire to as a mission to actually show the world what chiropractic can do and the lifestyle that actually taught me. I talk to you today, and I always tell people I'm healthier at 44 than I ever was in my 20s prior to chiropractic, because I was just eating a regular American diet. I didn't really understand that if the nerves don't get the energy they need to actually supply the organs that they're supposed to, whatever those organs are going to be weak. And that's what was happening in my lungs. That's what was happening in my digestive system. And when I started getting adjusted, a lot of that stuff cleared up and went away. It pretty much went away. And so that's one of the best decisions that I could have ever had happen in my life. And so that's why I dedicated my life to actually helping people to understand their true potential, remove the interference from their body, and then take their health to a whole nother level. And that's why I'm here. With that being said, over the years, I've been practicing chiropractic now almost, 15 years in June, as of June. And I've helped literally thousands of people literally get 100% better. And there's no greater feeling in the world as far as seeing somebody coming in and actually instilling hope in them. But not only instilling hope in them, but actually delivering on helping their body to actually heal the way God designed it to, so they can actually go to a whole nother level of health. And so I'm privileged enough to be able to do that. But let me talk to you about chiropractic real quick. And I just had to share my story. Number one, this right here is a spine, right? This is the spinal vertebrae. And this vertebrae, the spinal column right here is made up of different vertebrae, okay? You have a brain that sits here, and then you have a spinal cord that travels down through the spinal column. And this spinal cord gives rise to spinal nerves. And these nerves go to every single function in your body. Everything from your lungs, everything to your heart, to your digestive system, all the way to your toes, controlling those toes. And the brain is the master control system. It controls every single function, and it does so by sending energy down the spine. This spine is like a river carrying energy from the brain through the spine to all the organs and cells and tissues in your body. And they're totally and completely dependent on that energy coming from those spinal nerves. Now, in a healthy spine, that's how that works. In the day-to-day in real life, what happens is, due to different stresses in our life, some all of a sudden, some gradually over the course of time, those vertebrae can shift. And when those vertebrae shift, they put pressure on nerves. When they put pressure on those nerves, whatever those nerves supply get weak. They start to degenerate, and they eventually cause disease and later on lead to death as a result of that disease. Does that make sense? And what happens at that point, when that subluxation, as we call that, as chiropractors, we call that a subluxation. That subluxation is like a dimmer switch on a wall. If you think about when a dimmer switch on a wall is turned down dim, it still gets light, but it's not a lot. It may be dimmer. And that's the same concept of a subluxation. So as a chiropractor, what I do is I take these vertebrae and I adjust them to actually put the vertebrae back in alignment to restore that function to that joint, and also allow pressure to flow freely through that nerve to whatever it's trying to go, so that you can reach 100% potential. Now, 100% potential for you may be different than your neighbor or your spouse. So whatever everybody else's is, everybody's thumbprint and everybody's fingerprint is different. Same way everybody's body is going to heal different. You know, as a medical professional, we actually know that we have a certain amount of time that we know tissues take to heal. And when we take tissues to heal like that, we got to make sure that there's no interference, so we can actually help speed that process up. Now, what happens is when you actually have pain, so you can have a subluxation sitting there too, and you can have no pain. That means that joint is just being interfered with, so that organ is not functioning properly. Whenever you have pain in that area, like people come in with low back pain, people come in mid back pain or neck pain, that tells me that those nerves are inflamed. So wherever that nerve is compressed at, that inflammation is starting to build up around that joint. And when that builds up around that joint, inflammation causes pain. It eventually leads to pain because there's some kind of swelling around that joint, and it's just the way the body signals saying, hey, I'm injured, let me heal. And then what most people do in America is they start popping popping over-the-counter medication, different kinds of pills, or they start putting salves and creams on it. One of the best things that you could do when you have inflammation is put ice on something. I'm a very big component of icing certain joints. And with chiropractic right here, I do as a professional is I go through and I actually find out where the subluxations are, address them to restore that function to that joint so you can move and do all the things that you need to do. Very, very simple concept, but very, very effective, and it helps so many people. I got to tell you a couple of stories. I once helped a young man that was born, and when he was born, the mother fainted or passed out due to too much of epidural or whatever it may be, and the doctors had to rush and pull the young man out. And when they did, they broke his clavicle. Now, when they broke his clavicle, it actually damaged some of the nerves that come off of his neck called the brachial plexus. It's a group of nerves that come off the neck right here that go down into your hands, that'll measure your grip strength, the way your muscles develop and all that for. Now, this young man, as a toddler, as a 1-year-old, going into almost, I think he was 2 when I saw him. He was going to physical therapists, occupational therapists. They were not able to get very low results with him. The grandmother brought him in. I want you to see my grandson. And she said, Doc, I know that this thing called chiropractic can help. And I said, you know what? Let's see what we can do. She brought him in, and I started adjusting him. Now, keep in mind, he was still going to his occupational therapist and his physical therapy appointments. They were measuring his progress. They were casking one arm, forcing him to use the other arm, and so many different techniques they were doing to actually force him to use that arm more so it could develop more. 2 adjustments, we restored the function back in his arm, I would say probably by 60%, 70%, I would say. Now, with that being said, the physical therapist and the occupation, they were like, what did you do? Like, all of a sudden, he's got better range of motion, and that was from 1 to 2 simple chiropractic adjustments on a 2-year-old. That's amazing. That's the power of chiropractic. So that's one of the reasons why I get so excited and talking about this profession that I love. Now, there's another example right here where I had a model that came into my office in a wheelchair. Now, should I explain that? How does this model end up in a wheelchair? Her dad and her mom were patients in my office. She was starting her senior year at Eastern Illinois. Her senior year at Eastern Illinois. Now, she goes in thinking that she has the flu or something like that, and they said, maybe you got meningitis, so they do a spinal tap, and they inject her with something. She couldn't explain what it was. I didn't see it on the paperwork or whatnot when she brought in her records from the school. But her spine swelled up around the lower parts of her spine, or especially around the low back part of her spine. And when it swelled up, the inflammation was so bad, she lost the function of her legs. So here you go from modeling, walking down the runway, walking around campus, totally healthy and fine, to the point where you got inflammation so bad and these big nodules around her back. And then you can't walk. So you're laying in a hospital bed, they're trying to figure out what's going on with you. And then you end up getting shipped back from Eastern Illinois to Chicago in an ambulance, and you start going through your insurance processes. So now they go to your medical family doctor. Then you go to occupational therapy. Then you go to physical therapy. Then you go to all these different therapists and doctors, and no results. She still couldn't walk. Now, after about 20 treatments, I think it was 24 treatments, Blue Cross Blue Shield cut her off. They say you maxed out your benefits as far as physical therapy. Now, keep in mind, this young lady could not walk. The dad comes in, he's like, Doc, I want you to take a look at my daughter. I think you can help. Let's see what we can do. So what I did is I said a prayer over, and we started adjusting that young lady. And I said, you know what? I'm going to need to see you every day for the next 3 months. We're going to get that joint moving. We're going to start doing baby steps. We're going to start just trying to do what we can do. And it's possible that you can walk again. It's possible that you can be as healthy as you can be. And she was like, you know what, Doc? I'm trusting in you because everybody else is telling me that they don't know what it is. They don't know if I'm going to walk again, but you're saying life and you're speaking life. And this is one concept that you got to get. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. That's a hashtag. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. So you got to be careful of the words that you speak over your body, because that can actually speak life into that body and call that into existence. So she said, you know what? You saying that I could possibly walk again? And did I know she could possibly walk again? I was going to do everything that I possibly could to actually help her, and that's exactly what I did. I watched her go from the wheelchair to the crutches to the stilt things, other kinds of apparatus, to a cane, to now. She just had a baby a year ago, and she's walking. She's doing fine. But God, glory be to God, and thankful for her family, from her mother, her father, her aunts, her grandmother that brought her into her appointments every day that I was open for a good 6 months. This girl is doing absolutely amazing. And that is just 2 stories that's really good examples of the power of chiropractic and how powerful it is, and how a lot of people have been giving up with surgeries, and they tried all these other ways and it just didn't work. And they're not saying the same message. What I'm here to tell you is that if you remove the interference, the body can heal. But if you keep the interference there, it can't. It's almost like if I take a rubber band and I lock it around my finger like this. Now, I can actually move it a little bit, but if I keep this pressure on my finger like that, it's going to stop the blood flow to the area. The nerve function is going to stop. And then eventually my finger is going to start to change colors. It's going to lose function, and it's going to eventually start to die. And that's exactly what happens when we have pressure on those nerves. It's something that might not happen gradually that same day all of a sudden, but it's something that happened gradually over the course of time. Now, when a subluxation can happen gradually all of a sudden, like if you do a slip or a fall, or if you get in a bad car accident to where that spine has so much force that it causes the whole body to shift, and that can actually cause you to be paralyzed or cause a lot of other problems that can happen. Now, there's also been cases to where I've had people to come in and they, you know what, doc, I'll wait. You know what, I'm going to go see my orthopedic surgeon. They end up with surgery. I had a young lady that 50s, early 50s, high-level executive downtown, could never really make her appointments, could never commit to being healthy. She's on her 3rd back surgery already. She's already had her lumbar completely fused together, and she's in the exact same pain and worse, to where she was losing the function of her legs. Walking downtown, your corporate job in these high-level buildings, and you have to sit down on a bench because you're losing the function to your legs. That's not good for anybody. And that's what chiropractic could have done for her, was actually help to remove that pressure. But you have to decide that, you know what, I need to make a change, and you have to commit, and whatever it takes. And so one of the things some people say too, well, doc, you know, how much is this going to cost? You know what? It's cheaper than any surgery that you could ever have. It's cheaper than a lot of different things, and a lot of major insurance companies are covering chiropractic now. But even if they don't cover it, you should not base your health on what your insurance covers and what it doesn't cover. That's one of the worst things is. Insurance companies don't care about you. They only care about what they can cover for you, and as long as you pay your premiums, and then we're gonna keep this at bay. And now they'll pay for you to take drugs all day long because they're in cahoots with the drug companies, with the insurance companies, and the government. But we want to make sure that you understand how the true potential of your body is to heal. Now, those are just stories that I wanted to share with you about chiropractic and how it is. And just please don't negate the power of this right here. Now, we got these things right here that can actually cause these vertebrae to shift. Like I said, you got some things that can happen all of a sudden or gradually over the course of time. Like the young lady that actually had surgery was slowly over the course of time. You got stuff that's all of a sudden that could be from car accidents. Those are just physical ways that can happen. You got, they call them the 3 T's. Number 1, you got thoughts, which is negative, which is stress. And when you're constantly stressed out, your body tightens up and tenses up. And when your body tightens up and tenses up, it can cause these vertebrae to shift. It can cause your posture to distort, which puts pressure on this nervous system. And then you got the other T, which is toxins. These are chemicals. These are not drinking enough water, or actually putting bad things in your body that actually cause your body to break down. Too much alcohol, too many carbs, high insulin levels could actually cause a lot of inflammation that could eat away at your joints. And then you also have the traumas, which talked about slips, falls, car accidents, poor posture, the birthing process. A lot of times a baby gets pushed through this hole right here. And a lot of times stuff does not heal exactly the way that it started out. And so I see a lot of women that actually get epidurals or have a lot of problems during the birthing process that actually can be eliminated due to the power of chiropractic. So chiropractic is a very powerful thing. And remember, as I recap on this video, the brain controls everything. It does so by sending energy down the spine. And then those spinal nerves right here give rise to all your organs and cells and tissues in the body. If the vertebrae are shifted and they put pressure on those nerves, whatever those nerves supply, they won't work right. All right. Second thing that I want to go over tonight is I want to talk about this nervous system, which, you know, people think that chiropractic is all about bones. It's really about taking pressure off the nerves. It's the nervous system, doctors. The nervous system is comprised of 2 systems. You got sympathetic nervous system and you got parasympathetic nervous system. If you hear me talk about that a lot. The reason why that's so important is the sympathetic nervous system is fight or flight. That's like perceiving some kind of threat or you're trying to survive. And then that causes everything to tighten up and you actually go. If you're in that state, it's going to cause a lot of problems. Now, the balance is between the two is you need to tap into that parasympathetic system is where your body's resting, repairing, and digesting. So you need to have a balance in that. That's why it's important to get the right amount of rest. Now, with that being said, the vertebrae, and when you talk about this spinal column, the 2 main functions of the spinal column, which is the key thing. Number 1 is to keep you upright, which we call your posture. And the second reason for this spinal column, which is the vertebrae here, is to actually protect the spinal cord, which is your lifeline. If anything happens to that spinal cord, you're done. Like with Superman, when he fell off a horse and dislocated C2, he fractured C2 vertebrae, which severed that cord. And when it severed that cord, nothing below that worked. Nothing below that worked because there was no pressure, there was no signals getting down to the rest of the body. So he had to rely on machines for his heart. He had to rely on machines for breathing. He had to rely, and then your body cannot last a long life like that. So what I'm saying is, if you have a subluxation where the vertebrae shifts like that for a period of time and stays there, eventually your body's going to break down. And so that's one of the things that can happen. And I share with you my story with chiropractic. I have a second story that I want to end with. The reason why posture is so important is losing myself. I was sleeping on my stomach. Yes, as a chiropractor, I know that's a very bad thing to do, but I was a creature of habit. And when I was sleeping on my stomach, I was laying down on my stomach, and then I would have my head turned like this. Over the course of time, I was developing neck pain. Neck pain to the point where I couldn't hardly turn my head if I tried to bend it over, stuff like that. And what was happening was the disc. Yes, the disc was actually slipping out, and it was hitting that nerve, and that was causing inflammation. It started as a subluxation, which is a small thing, which could turn into inflammation and turn into a disc issue, which is a very big thing, and it really gets your attention. And once I did that, I noticed the fact that what happened was I started to feel like this tingling into my hand. I started under chiropractic care, just like a patient, just like you would. And voila, after 24 visits, my neck, it feels so much more better, and it actually restoring back the function and the curves back in my spine that need to be there. If you don't have a chiropractor and you're watching this, you need to contact me. I'm Dr. John Artis, founder of Health on Earth Chiropractic and Rehabilitation. My office is in Tinley Park, Illinois, and I would love to sit down and have a consultation with you today. One of the things that I'm offering is a free consultation. And one of the things that I want to say too is that if you are not a patient, you need to get a consultation to see what we can do to help you and see what kind of plan we can come up with you. And then the next thing you want to do is, if you are a patient, you want to see if you can actually help and refer somebody. You know, that could be a contribution that you can actually give to the world to make the world a better place. Refer them to a chiropractor. You know, I will hope it will be me if you think highly of me. I hope it will be somebody else, but they need to get into chiropractic care. And one of the things I want to say too is that I want to eliminate another option too. All chiropractors are not equal with their philosophy and what they believe in. I am a corrective care chiropractor, so I really look at posture. I look at strength of the spine and restoring that strength and mobility back to the spine. We're not talking about just managing pain. We're talking about actually restoring the strength to the spine to allow the body to be able to stand up and do what it needs to do. And if that's what you're looking for, and if you're tired of experiencing pain or your health not being where you want it to be, now's the time. Let's get it together. Let's use this quarantine to come out of this thing a lot healthier than when we came in, and so that we can do that. Now, as we wrap this masterclass up, now your homework right now is I want you to get adjusted at least once this week, and I want you to stretch. All my patients that are watching this, I'll see you this week. And then all my people that are not, hopefully I will see you this week either way, that you will call for a consultation. I want to say God bless you, and I want to enjoy you to enjoy your evening. With that being said, let me end on a quick word of prayer. Dear Father God, we ask that you bless everybody on this call, God. We ask you bless all the Health on Earth family members, God. We ask anybody that's going to hear this, God, that you actually bless over them with protection from the top of their heads to the bottom of their feet. And God, we ask that you give them health, happiness, and a life full of purpose. God bless.